now comes along this dude named Haman. And Haman hates the Jews, okay? Because of Mordecai. And I'll tell you why he hates the Jews because of Mordecai, but I'm going to tell you the meaning of Haman's name. The meaning of Haman's name is magnificent. And this sounds like he's going to be like this awesome guy, because magnificence means like beauty, and he's just awesome, and da-da-da-da-da. But looks can be deceiving, okay? In Matthew 15, verse 8, it states how Jesus was saying, like, people can be nice to you and everything like that, but that doesn't really mean anything. Like, this is what it says. It says, these people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth. They come close to me with their mouth, and they speak good things to me, and honoreth me with their lips. So they speak good things, and they say, you're awesome, Jesus, da-da-da. But their heart is far from me. It says in the Bible that God knows the depths of a man's heart. In Jeremiah 17, verse 9 through 10, it says, the heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his doings. So this is basically saying that nobody knows how bad a person can be. They can smile in your face and everything like that. Like, always in movies, you'll see like these evil people, but they'll always be like the nicest person in the movie. God knows that smiling in somebody's face does not mean anything, and he can discern that. That's why Jesus was saying that these people are talking good about me and everything like that, and they're close to me, but at the same time, I know that they're not for me. And Haman was not for the king at all. He literally wanted the king's spot. He wanted to be in the king's place. He wanted to be the king. And the Bible even tells you that the devil was beautiful. Lucifer was the most beautiful angel, and the meaning of his name was Day Star. And the thing is that in Ezekiel 28, verse 14, it states, they're talking about Lucifer at this point, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou was unto the holy mountains of God, thou hast walked upon down the midst of the stones of fire. Which means that he was like the top angel and everything like that, and he was like close to God, on God's right hand side and everything like that, but he blew it because he was deceitful in his heart, and he wanted to be in God's place. Same thing with Haman. He wanted to be in King Xerxes' place, and that's an evil heart to want to take power away from somebody else, because Xerxes wasn't a bad king. He was ruling his kingdom, and his kingdom was prospering, and God's ruling heaven and earth. And before the fall of sin and everything like that, everything was prospering and everything like that. There was nothing wrong and everything. And all of a sudden, Haman comes in, and the devil comes in, and they want to take over, and they want to kind of take power. But it wasn't up to Haman to take power, because it's up to God to set kings up and tear them down. So that wasn't Haman's place at all. And Mordecai didn't like Haman in the first place, and Haman knew Mordecai didn't like him. And the king had told everybody to bow down to Haman when they see him, but Mordecai wouldn't do it. That's why Haman didn't like Mordecai. And Haman knew that Mordecai's people were the Jews, so in turn, Haman just didn't like all Jews. So he was prejudiced in a way. It's like saying, oh, this one person of certain race did this, so now I don't like all of them. All of them are the same. Racism is not a new thing. So Haman had a conversation with the king, and he said, there's these people in your land that don't obey your laws, and they have their own sets of laws, which the Jews did have their own sets of laws, the laws of Moses, and those were the laws that they were going to abide by, but it wasn't going to tear down the kingdom of the Persians and the Medes. It was just them following the Sabbath and everything like that, and staying kosher, and it wasn't going to tear down the kingdom, but Mordecai blew it out of proportion because he didn't like them. So he kind of advised the king to wipe out all these people. And since the king didn't want his kingdom toppling over, because it was the way that Haman was one of his advisors, one of the 7 princes, so he was like, okay, he must be telling the truth. I don't want my kingdom to fall apart. It's such a large empire, it's so easy for that to like get away from you. So he was like, okay, you can get rid of these people. So Mordecai found out about this, and him along with a whole bunch of other Jews were mourning, and they were crying out to God, and they were just saying, why is this happening? Mordecai kind of like cried so much in the king's gate and everything like that. Esther finds out. Nobody knows Esther is a Jew yet. Esther finds out, and she sends Mordecai clothes, because he's in like sackcloth and ashes, and that's how they mourned back then. They put ashes on their head, and they put, like the kind of like rough, crunchy like potato sack stuff. That's what they wore. They wore that to mourn. Esther tried to give him new clothes and everything like that, and good clothes, and he was like, no, I don't want this. Again, we go back to where it's all about counsel, and who is your counsel, because King Xerxes had this whole decree about wiping out a whole nation of people, but it wasn't even under good counsel. And even the city that they were in, not everybody was Jews in the city that we're in. The city that they were in, it says that the whole city felt unsteady after they heard the decree of the Jews being killed. Like, I hope in my city, if it said that all the people of a certain race would be killed, I hope that people would have an unsteady feeling about that and they wouldn't feel okay. So it's good to see that even the people of the land were kind of like, whoa, you're gonna kill the Jews? Why again? Why is this happening? So Esther tried to give Mordecai the code. Mordecai said no. But Mordecai sent a message to Esther, and it says to tell the king to stop the decree. Go before the king. But Esther was like, do you know what happens when people go before the king without his permission? And this is what happened if you went before the king without his permission. You died. Unless he reached out that scepter to kind of, which is his like staff, his like kingly gold thing. Unless he reached that out, there was no way that your life was going to be spared. There was no laws that said if this was the reason why. No, it was just, if he didn't reach out that thing, then you're just, okay. So Esther told that to Haman. She passed on the message. Not Haman. She said that to Mordecai, and she passed on the message. And Mordecai answered back saying, if you do not step out and tell people that you're a Jew and save your people, God will cause somebody else to rise up and save the Jews, but you will surely perish. So Mordecai was keeping it real. He was like, if you don't save us, somebody else will, because our God's going to take care of us, but you're going to end up in hot water because you didn't try to save us and help us out. So Esther gets to this point where she kind of builds up the courage to risk her life to save her people, and she tells them to fast and wear sackcloth, and she'll do it. On the third day of the fasting, also her 7 maidens and her were also going to be fasting. On the third day of their fasting, she went before the king. And graciously, the king, he reached out his scepter and he granted her pardon for coming before him without his permission, because he loved her. And when she came, he was like, what is your wish? I'll give you anything you want, up to half my kingdom. So half his kingdom his kingdom is from Ethiopia to India, and 26,000 miles in between. So 13,000 miles. Yours, hunty. It is yours if you want it. My girl, my babe, my forever. It is yours. Esther's request is to invite the king and Haman to a banquet. And at the banquet, she'll make her request there. Esther couldn't build up her courage to say what she needed in that first banquet, so she just invited them to another banquet. But there's a story in between, the gap between the two banquets, that I'm about to tell you right now.